Let's bring Teddy in on this Tuesday morning, see how he's doing in Las Vegas, Nevada. Teddy Covers, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Ian, but you know how it is when you're racing around. I got to get on a plane this afternoon, so this morning is a bit of a cluster, you know what. But I'm doing all right. Of course, I had the Rams last night, so I've been in better moods on a Tuesday morning. At least it wasn't a sweat.
Well, you're angry that you had the Rams and lost. I'm upset because I taught myself out of Baltimore and didn't win. So, yeah, we're angry for different reasons with that Monday night game, but incredible performance.
I'll for sure trade you, dude. You know, you didn't lose any money last night. I lost 11 to win 10. You know what I mean? So I'd much rather have the, I should have played this one and didn't, than the, I played this one and shouldn't have. Because one doesn't actually cost you money, the other one does.
It was impressive. I mean, just a complete and utter beatdown. It's one of those games, and I know you say this all the time, it was over by halftime. You could sense it was over by halftime last night with the Ravens and the Rams. That was a dagger touchdown right at the end of the second quarter. I think made it 28-6 at the time, and that was it. It was all she wrote. There was no looking back at that time for the Ravens, and this Lamar Jackson offense is looking like hellfire and brimstone right now at this stage of the NFL season. And now we've got this titanic matchup coming up Sunday, obviously. Baltimore, San Francisco. You know people are going to hype this up as a potential Super Bowl preview. And how could they not with the way Baltimore's rolling, with the way San Francisco's rolling? Obviously, that's a phenomenal game. We'll get some thoughts from Teddy on that game and a lot of the NFL card this week, because I know Jimmy was going to before the personal emergency came up with him. But we'll start with the Tuesday games, as we always do. We'll start with the college football action taking place tonight. I'm going to throw them both at you at the same time, Teddy. Ohio, Akron. Ohio laying 28 on the road, 53.5 in the total. As I said earlier in the show, round of applause for Akron. Yay, you covered a number last week. Yay, ribbons and awards and gold medals for everybody. Great job, Akron. You covered a number last week. Can you do it again here, getting 4 touchdowns at home against Ohio? I know Ohio's not a team I'm comfortable laying 4 touchdowns with, but betting Akron at this stage of the season, no. On a time of the year when there's college football, NFL, NBA, college basketball, NHL, I don't need to bet this game, and I'm not. As for Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, I think I would lean to the road favorite, believe it or not, because I didn't like what I saw at Northern Illinois defensively against Eastern Michigan, and Eastern Michigan's a lot more pedestrian offense than Western Michigan, with Wasink at quarterback, with Levante Bellamy, who's a great running back for that Broncos team as well. It was a defense that I don't know if they're going to get stops in bunches here against Western Michigan. And for Western Michigan, it's very simple. Win and you're in the MAC championship game against Miami of O. Of course, win and you're in means win. Doesn't necessarily mean win by more than 9 points, which they're going to have to cash a ticket here. I lean Broncos, but maybe a small bet, if anything, there. Total was interesting, a lean over for me, but again, there's weather issues expected in DeKalb for this game, and that's tempered my enthusiasm there. Teddy, your thoughts on the 2 MACtion games tonight in college football?
Yeah, there's clear other weather issues in DeKalb for tonight. It's supposed to be relatively windy, and it will be raining throughout the course of that contest. So the weather conditions there are real. I have not made a move on either game. I'm not going to make a move on either game. I'm not close. I mean, the Akron-Miami O game is, the ultimate pass. All right. Akron fought last week. We'll give him credit for that. Do I trust him to fight after losing that game? No. Do I want one of the, if not the worst team in college football and the tail end of the Kansas season? No. Do I trust Ohio U to bring their A game and pound them and to play defense? No. Easy pass. Easy. The Northern Illinois Western Michigan game is a fascinating handicap. I bet against the Huskies in their last game against Eastern Michigan. They got wiped out in that contest. It was one of those games where literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for them. They're not a good team. I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as the last time we saw them on the field. All the pressure is this game is on Western Michigan. You know, they got to win. If they don't win, then Central has a chance to win the title. Western owns a tiebreaker between those two teams. And when they played on the field, they were much better. All that said, you're talking about laying a price on the road, more than a touchdown, with a team that has all the pressure on them against an opponent that is coming off one of their worst games, if not their worst game. I can understand Western winning, and in weather conditions as well. I could see Western running away with this game. I could also see them in a battle. And again, the matchup in theory plays well for an over, but not if the wind's blowing and the rain is coming down and then it's going to be handing off. Both teams are going to hand the ball off 50 times tonight. That's not an over that I want. So it's going to be a pass for me. No action in college football tonight.
All right, yeah, I can't blame you there. It's tricky games in both of them there, Ohio, Akron, Western Michigan, Illinois. All right, let's go to NBA. We got the two games there. And I'll throw them both at you since there's only two games. I'll throw them both at you at the same time. We got the Clips and Mavs. Clips 2.5-point road favorites, 227 the total. Wizards and Nuggets. Nuggets laying 10 at home, 228 the total. It's starting to climb up a little. The total in that game. The Dallas Mavericks, been a nice story this year. I mean, the Porzingis, Doncic combo, phenomenal. A team that can flat out score. I know our previous NBA guest, Tony, that was on with me on the show earlier, like the over in that LA-Dallas game, and he likes the under in the Washington-Denver game tonight. What's your thoughts on these two NBA matchups tonight, Teddy? You got any opinions or action?
Oh, yeah, I'm in action on one of the two. I don't know that Dallas is a story. I think Dallas is a contender. I mean, when we think about the Warriors, when they first went from being bottom feeders to playoff contenders to championship contenders, and that happened basically in like a 3-year span. And Dallas looks to me to be on that trajectory right now, where they've gone from, all right, no good to, all right, well, now we're going to contend for the playoffs. And I see nothing but upside for Dallas. And I'm not stepping in front of the Clippers. So it's an easy pass in that game. The Wizards have been, as an underdog of 4 or more this year, they've been underdog 7 times. I got them 6-0-1 against the spread. They haven't lost in this role yet. The last 3 years, Wizards and Nuggets, every meeting decided by 9 or less. And this is not a spot where I want to lay with Denver, flat out. All right. When you have the team, they've a successful homestand. The hunger isn't there. They've won and covered their last 5? Or they've won 5 straight. They've covered all 3 on this homestand. They play tonight, and they don't play again until Sunday. They got a little break coming. I'm not laying points in that spot. That's your fat and happy spot for Denver. And you have a dog, that's all they've done is cover in this role all year. Wizards have some ugly defensive numbers. Their offensive numbers are pretty good. I took Washington plus the 10. I put that in my pocket. I thought that was a good wager. And we'll see how it pans out tonight. But I do like the Wizards plus the points. I have not bet them on the money line and probably won't.
All right, Wizards plus 10. A lot of points because we know Denver's sort of been up and down. They haven't really clicked from start to finish yet this first month of the season and played their best. They've been up and down, a little bit erratic. And Teddy going against them tonight with Washington catching doubles, plus 10 as road dogs in the Mile High City against the Denver Nuggets. All right, so that's the NBA. We are almost there, I believe, in the Teddy calendar in terms of when you get involved in college basketball. Are you there yet, Teddy, or are you still waiting a few more days?
Oh, no, yeah. We'll start making plays probably over the weekend or Sunday or Monday. And I've been putting together what I call my starting list. Bet on teams, bet against teams, and that's how I start in college hoops. So I've got a decent list now of teams that I'm looking to bet on and bet against. And, once I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to start to handicap the card when I'm on with the family over a couple of days on vacation. But I get back into town on Saturday night, and from then on, it'll be college hoops every day. So I've got a list. I've got to start, and that's the part of my process. So yeah, it'll be a couple more days still.
All right, couple days still. All right, so if Jimmy's back hosting next week, we'll probably be starting to get into some daily college basketball analysis with Teddy on the show when he joins the Betting with the Bag show every morning. But college basketball, lots of tournaments. I love the Maui Invitational. That's always one time a year. One side I can tell you I'm looking at today is DePaul a little bit against Central Michigan. DePaul's a much improved team this year. I mean, much better. Team. Remember, they thumped Iowa already. Fran McCaffrey's team earlier this year just destroyed them, laid the wood to them. And they've had some blowout wins against teams that they've shown that they can manhandle and dominate. I think Central Michigan might be one of those teams. So laying the points there is kind of interesting to me in college basketball. Like I say, I know why people are betting against Virginia Tech. I mean, that's the game I was talking about before Teddy came on. Because they're off the big win against Michigan State. Can they withstand prosperity? Is it a letdown spot after such a huge victory for a team like that? And Dayton's very good. themselves, but I don't want to go against Virginia Tech either, and especially getting 4 points. I understand the spot perspective doing it, but it's just a team that's been an undervalued team all season long, not in a rush to do that. I'm kind of interested in Stanford plus points against Butler as that line climbs up on Butler. I've been more anti-Butler than the betting markets, and I know they had a very big win against Missouri last night in the neutral court tournament that's taking place there. But this Stanford team for Gerard Haas is finally starting to look pretty good. I mean, they've had a really nice start to the season, this Stanford Cardinal team. I'm not sure they should be 4-point underdogs, and we're starting to see 4 arrive in that game. So those are a couple in college basketball that I'm looking at here tonight on the yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just let me jump in. So the move towards Dayton, I think, is every bit as much of a play on Dayton as it is a play against, all that money coming in as a play against Virginia Tech. I don't know that there was a team that looked more impressive yesterday than Dayton, and the markets, are reacting to that as every bit as much as the, in theory, letdown for the Hokies. You don't have letdown spots 24 hours later. It just doesn't work that way. And the one other thing I wanted to point out, I said I was making my list. There is one game, and it tips off at in an hour. No, it tips off in an hour and a half. That has one of the bet on teams against one of the bet against teams. Right now, I've got South Florida, USF, as a bet on, and New Mexico State as a bet against, and New Mexico State's laying points in that game. So for what it's worth, if my system's right, USF's the play for today. And that, again, right, 10:30 Pacific, 1:30 Eastern time tip-off. So it's going this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And South Florida's a team that very early, first few games, didn't look right. Yetna, I believe Yetna's his name, got obviously out for the season, which was a big deal coming into the year for that USF team. And they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're starting to put things together a little bit. They had a nice win yesterday against Loyola Chicago, the Ramblers. We remember Sister Jean, right? South Florida took care of business against them and Porter Moser's group yesterday. Very good win, actually. I had parts of that game on television while I was working, and it was a good win for South Florida. They look like they've improved just the last few games. So maybe because of that early, little woes that they had, now you got some residual value just as they're starting to turn a corner. There's some truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole theory, is that was a good team. They had 2 bad losses in their first 3 games. There was one that were double-digit chalk at home and lost by double digits. They fixed it, and they are a value-laden squad now, for what it's worth.
All right, value-laden squad. So Teddy recommending look at South Florida +2 against New Mexico State. That's a 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific tip-off. So just be aware. And make sure when you're handicapping college basketball this week, don't get caught with your pants down in terms of forgetting that a lot of these games are early start times. There's going to be a lot of afternoon action for the next several days. Make sure you're aware of that there's a lot of early start tip-off times, that you get your bets in on time. You don't miss out. Make sure you get those wagers down before the games begin. Very important at this time of year. All right, the rest of the show with Teddy, we're going to be talking NFL and college football for the weekend. Obviously, we're getting to the point in the NFL season where finally crunch time is arriving. Divisional races, wild card races are big-time proponent now of the NFL. We'll start with NFL because I know Jimmy wanted to do a lot of NFL with Teddy today. We'll start NFL. We'll go back to college after that. I know someone in the chat was asking about Texas Tech, Texas. I've got an opinion actually on that Texas Tech, Texas game this weekend. We'll get to that later. But NFL, we'll start with that. I'll throw the 3 games on Thursday at you because I know you're not here the rest of the week, so we can go through as much as we can here. We've got Detroit, Chicago, Buffalo, Dallas, New Orleans, Atlanta. We've got Chicago laying 3 on the road, 39 the total there, 12:30 on Thursday, the traditional Detroit home game on Thanksgiving, the traditional Dallas home game on Thanksgiving. They're laying 6.5 to 7 against Buffalo, 45 the total, and New Orleans laying 6.5 against Atlanta, 48.5, 49 the total. Teddy, I've made 2 moves on this Thursday slate in the NFL. I grabbed the points with the Bills, and I know the Bills are going to get ridiculed for not beating anybody yet this season, and I fully understand that. But you've got Dallas looking out of sorts. Defensively, they've looked like they've been a little bit weakened in recent weeks. Offensively, Zeke Elliott's been okay, but he's fumbled. He's not been that same dominant, tremendous running back that we're familiar with for Dallas. This is not a team in the Jason Garrett era that's been good as a home favorite, laying this kind of number. I know you can chip away at Buffalo, say, hey, they haven't beaten anybody. Their 8-3 record is all based on beating up a bunch of nobodies. But Dallas, you could say, is beat up on a bunch of nobodies too, just like this Bills team. So they're kind of like mirror images in that instance. So I grabbed points there, and I laid 6.5 with New Orleans against Atlanta. Obviously, we know the Saints lost to Atlanta off the bye, the ultimate flat spot. That was their worst game of the season. Atlanta came back down to earth finally last week against Tampa Bay, showing that, hey, they had these incredible 2 games out of nowhere with a head coach that's on the hot seat, maybe out the door at the end of the season, and Dan Quinn. Where did these 2 amazing performances come from out of the blue for the Falcons? Well, they reverted back into the Falcons we saw most of the season before that with the loss to Tampa Bay. New Orleans, I don't think, was impressed with, I know the officiating, they weren't happy about it against Carolina, but they weren't happy with their sloppiness in that game. It was not a great game defensively from the Saints at all. They had to hang on to win that game against Carolina. That, plus losing to Atlanta earlier this season, I think it's a good situation here for the Saints maybe to go into Atlanta and win by at least a touchdown. So I took some Saints, took some Bills on the Thursday NFL card. What stands out to you, Teddy, for that 3-game slate on Thanksgiving Thursday?
So I'm with you 100% on Buffalo, plus the points. Unfortunately, the best of the number is already gone. All that being said, from my powering numbers don't have a significant difference between these 2 teams. My number for this game, I think, what does it come? 4.5. So when it opened 7, 7.5, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and I don't like road teams on Thursday, but I don't want that game in New England was brutal. Okay. Was absolutely brutal. And when you're talking about playing on a Thursday off of a Sunday, a Sunday game that was in the cold, super physical, super tough, turnaround time is not easy. And not that the Bills were comfortably in control of their game throughout. I don't think they'll be quite. And I don't love road teams on Thursday, but Buffalo's plus a tutty. And again, when you look at Dallas, and you talked about the Bills haven't beaten anyone, these are Dallas's wins this year. They beat the Lions with Driscoll. They beat the Giants. They beat the Eagles, the collapsing Eagles. They beat the Dolphins, the Redskins, and the Giants again. Ain't no winning teams on that list. So, yeah, Buffalo's a clear choice. Saints, Falcons, I'm not playing. I'm not going to play. And right now, I have no idea what to do with Atlanta. Do you know? I mean, if you can look me in the eye and say, oh, I know what Atlanta team's going to show up this week, more power to you. I don't. And maybe last week's loss was okay. They had a little momentum, and now the momentum snapped, and that's the end of the Falcons. That's very possible. But Drew Brees is not the QB I want on the short week with travel. I don't. Not laying a tutty either. That's going to be the big public side on Thanksgiving night, and the public wins on Thanksgiving. So I don't worry about that as much as I do on other days. But I won't get there with the Saints. Tempted with Chicago, but I missed the best of the number there. I'm not going to lay 3, and the market's already there. So if I was playing the early game, I know I don't want Detroit. So it's a Bears or pass situation for me. But I'm just going to sit with my Buffalo. I think is the strongest of the 3, and that's what I'll go with on Turkey Day.
All right, very good. So strongest opinion on Thanksgiving Thursday for the Teddy covers Buffalo plus the points against Dallas, and I'm in full agreement there. I already bet Buffalo and I already bet the Saints. I do think Atlanta goes back in the sewer and goes back in the tank again after what happened last week, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's why you test your theories with a bet. If you're strong in your conviction. I'm strong in my conviction Atlanta's going to go back downward again after last week, and New Orleans trying to avenge the loss to Atlanta a couple weeks ago can get it done. Again, win by 7. I think they can. It's plausible. I think it's feasible in my opinion for the Saints. All right, let's move to Sunday NFL, and then we'll come back to college football to wrap up the show. Sunday's card, interesting games. We got to start with obviously the big one, 49ers and Ravens. We've got Baltimore laying 6 at home, 46 the total. I know you cashed a ticket with the 49ers that was as easy as could be last week against Green Bay, and I know you tried to go against Baltimore last night with the Rams. Does that mean you want to ride San Francisco one more time and maybe try going against Baltimore one more time this Sunday with San Fran catching 6 on the road, Teddy? What do you think of this epic matchup?
Oh, I'm not going to play it. I've tried to step in front of Baltimore a couple times, and a couple times I've gotten my teeth kicked in, and I've learned my lesson, and I'm not going to bet against the Niners catching 6, so it'll be a pass for me. There's no way I get involved in that game.
All right, easy pass. Yeah, it's a great game. It's one of those great games to watch, but from a betting perspective, how do you make a really strong, case to go against either Baltimore or San Francisco right now? It's very, very difficult. Here's a game I jumped on. It's one of my favorite plays this week. It's Tennessee, Indianapolis over the total. It's 43.5 right now in this game. It's gone up already a little. I think it's a great bet. I cashed a Tennessee Jacksonville over last week because I think Tennessee's offense is extremely better now with Ryan Tannehill under center. I'm not saying Tannehill's, Brady or Breeze or Rodgers or an elite quarterback, but man, he can actually throw the football down the field accurately at times, which Marcus Mariota could not do for this Tennessee Titans offense. He just couldn't. And now all of a sudden they have a little bit of a downfield passing game. And now all of a sudden it's opening up Derrick Henry for big monster runs like the 75-yard touchdown run he had against Jacksonville last week, which, by the way, Ian Eagle with a phenomenal call. Oh, Henry! Of course, with the talking about the chocolate bar. That was absolutely phenomenal. Ian Eagle's amazing. Ian Eagle, Kevin Harlan, I could listen to those guys do play-by-play every single game. They're that good. But nevertheless, I think Tennessee's more balanced offense. Indy's defense is okay. They can still give up yards. I know they shut down Jacksonville in the home game a couple weeks ago, but they can still give up some yards. Tennessee's offense is better. Jacoby Brissett back. We know the Indianapolis offense is a lot better than obviously with him under center than Brian Hoyer. They looked a lot like it with him back the last game or two. I think we see points, and this is a game where weather's not going to be an issue. Tennessee's an undervalued team totals-wise. I think you can make some money in the very near future in the short term with this team over the total because their potency level with a quarterback that can actually throw the ball and Henry running it with that nice balance they've got going. It's an undervalued totals team right now to the over. Cashed over with Tennessee last week. I'm going to try to do it again this week. What's your thoughts, side or total, Teddy, on that one, Titans and Colts?
And that over makes a ton of sense, Ian. I would not even try to talk you out of that one. It really does make sense. I have an issue with the Titans, and this is my issue with Tennessee. Since Tannehill became the starting quarterback, they've been in the red zone 14 times, and they scored 13 touchdowns. That's pretty freaking good. All right. It's really also good. Long past due for a little regression. You're not going to score 13 touchdowns and 14 tries in the red zone over an extended period of time. And the one thing this Colts defense has impressed me with all year long, man, they shut teams down in the red zone. You can get to the 20 in Indy. It's the ultimate bend but don't break, but they don't break. So that makes me concerned about riding this total over just because Tennessee's due to kick some field goals, man. And this is a defense that forces field goals. So that'd be my concern there. From a side standpoint, I like the spot for Indy. They're coming an extra time to prepare. Season on the line, Reich saying all the right things, Hilton off a drop game, Tennessee off a game against a team that didn't show up in Jacksonville. Yeah, 2.5. That's cheap. I like Indy minus in this one.
All right, Indy minus in this one. Colts off the bye. I can't argue with that. And I
not off a bye. They're off extra time.
Colts. Yeah, I might be betting Colts too because I remember I took Indy. I think it was off a bye, and they hosted Houston, and I loved the Colts in that game hosting Houston, and they got it done. It was close, but they got it done. And Frank Reich's a coach I trust. I have nothing but adulation and respect, and I'm impressed with the job he's done. One of my favorite coaches in the NFL
and Hilton
right now,
had all those drops last week too, and that's something that's not going to, I want Hilton motivated. Remember he had those key drops? Indy.
Yeah, exactly. The Houston game.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm like, and this point. And that point, But that's how you build a case. You're like, okay, I like this, and then, and then this, and then this, and you line them all up, and you're like, yeah, that's a case for Indy. Go.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. All right, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. This is an interesting game. Cleveland's taking money. I can't really blame them. Pittsburgh's probably, I would assume, going to turn to Devlin Hodges at quarterback. I think the writing was on the wall when they made the switch and took Rudolph out last week against Cincinnati and put Hodges in. And sure enough, Hodges right away, a touchdown, big touchdown, changed the complexion of that game. So I would think Tomlin's going to stick with him this week. Cleveland taking the money. And here's Cleveland now. Are they finally getting their shit together and righting the ship? Back-to-back wins. The Buffalo win was an ugly win, but a win. And obviously they dominated Miami. I don't know how much stock you can put into that. But it seems that for a team that's still got an abundance of talent, maybe, and I'm always hesitant because sometimes when you think the Browns are turning the corner, here comes that penalty-filled game, that coaching error game, and bad coaching decisions, bad play calling from Kitchens. That's just right around the corner, and another disappointing loss for this Cleveland team. But they look like they're starting to get some things going, and I know obviously Garrett suspended hurts the defense. I think they're also 39-40 the total. I'm trying to make a case for the over. I think Cleveland without Garrett is compromised a little defensively. They're weakened big time from a pass rush perspective without him due to the suspension. Can Hodges and the Pittsburgh offense do enough? Can Cleveland move the ball against still a very good Pittsburgh defense? And I know Pittsburgh's defense has been really good. That's a low total, 39-40, and I don't know if Cleveland's defense is as good without Garrett. I know it's not as good without Garrett, and they're a little weak in there, and their offense with Mayfield is starting to click a little bit. So I lean Browns and over. What's your take? It's a fascinating game here, Teddy.
I'm not going to play an over right now with the Steelers. The Steelers are the under team in the NFL. The defense is loaded. The offense is as dink and dunk as it gets. And Duck Hodges came in and threw the one catch and run to Washington. That was the only touchdown of the game for Pittsburgh last week. I can't bet the over here. No way. In fact, I'm looking. The only way I'm looking is under in this one. And I mean, we've seen repeatedly when the Browns play a good defensive team, that offense doesn't work. I'm not convinced that changed because they scored points against Miami, missing 3 starters in the secondary last week. So my lean is under. From a side standpoint, it's just a lean. I'm not betting the under, but I'm not betting against Pittsburgh this time around. And there's a reason that Hodges is in and Rudolph is out for this game. Lean Steelers, lean under. I doubt I get to the window with either one.
All right, lean Steelers and under, but doubtful that you'll bet either one. All right, before we get back to college, anything in terms of the games we haven't talked about, Teddy, that you've pulled the trigger on and interested in from a betting standpoint this weekend in the NFL?
So there's 2 that I haven't, but I may well today. I'm going to look at the Raiders plus in Kansas City. I want Oakland off a no-show. I remember the first 2 meetings between the first meeting between these 2 teams this year in Oakland, and I'll just call that as a misleading final score game. The Raiders battled. They didn't score any points, and they held KC out of the end zone for 3 of the 4 quarters. They had a very bad second quarter. So I'm looking at the Oakland side there, and I'm looking at the Jags. Look ahead line here was 4.5. Jacksonville's lost 3 straight by 20 plus. If they're going to circle the wagons, this is their spot. And do you really want to ask Tampa? I mean, I understand that Tampa sometimes shows up. You really want to ask them to win on the road off a win? I don't. So the Jags are on the short list for me. I'm looking at we talked about the Bills already. I'm looking at the Colts. We talked about the Colts already. And I'm going to look at Green Bay. I don't know that I get to the window with them, but I've got them on the quote-unquote short list for today. It is, it's a bounce back spot for the Packers, and the Giants are what they are, which is a last place team. Well, they're battling with the Redskins for who's going to be the last place team. But from a spot standpoint, it's a Green Bay spot. I'm going to look at them. I don't know that I get there. And that's what I'm looking at in the NFL. Bills, Packers, Colts, Raiders, Jaguars. Sidewise.
All right, there you go. NFL from Teddy Covers. Time to turn to college football. We got about 10 minutes or so left on the show, so we'll get college football. I know you had your bets yesterday, your first bets of the week. You can reiterate those, Teddy, as well. And any bets that you've added in the last 24 hours, college football.
I have not added anything in the last 24 hours. Like I said, it's a little bit of a you-know-what trying to get out of town. We'll get there, but it's been a little crazy. This one I bet yesterday. I bet betting number 311 Ole Miss plus the 3. Betting number 348 East Carolina plus the 6. Betting number 386 San Jose State plus the 3. Betting number 391. I laid 6.5 with Indiana. I am going to get off that game. I'm going to take back Purdue at 7 or 7. Let's see what the number is. But that's one that I've absolutely. I talked myself out of the Indiana side. I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to get off with a positive expectation, or with at least a 7 in my pocket there. And then Illinois. I guess I laid a bad number with the Illini at -10. I don't care. I'm comfortable with Illinois. We haven't gotten there with Minnesota yet. I'm going to get there with Minnesota. I'm going to take the best number I can find. I'm hoping I see a 3 at some point between now and kickoff. But even if I don't, I'll be on the Gophers. I'm interested in the Wake Forest side and the UAB side. That's 2 games we didn't talk about yesterday. Wake -4.5, UAB -1. I have not yet pulled on either, but I may well do one or both of those before I get on a plane today. So that's 2 additional ones that I've looked at that we didn't talk about yesterday. Wake and UAB now on the short list and alive for wagering.
I like you talked about getting off Indiana and going with Purdue. I like the over in that game. You're going to get pace on both sides. I like Indiana's offense. I still don't trust Indiana's defense. Purdue still moved the ball. Like, they put up some points and moved the ball against Wisconsin last week a little bit. They should be able to do it against Indiana's defense here, which is still giving up some big plays. I mean, Michigan carved them up last week. And even Penn State, even though they covered that game 2 weeks ago, Indiana, they got moved the football against them in that game too by the Nittany Lions. So I think you'll get points. And again, you get some decent pace with Braum and Allen, both coach offenses that play above average tempo-wise. So I think you'll see points there in that game. I like the over Indiana-Purdue. The Syracuse-Wake game, and I've circled that game, Teddy, because I'm in this conundrum where I'm debating, is Wake the stronger play? Because I agree with you. They could crush Syracuse. Or is the over the stronger play? Because that game is going to be extreme tempo on both sides. They're 2 of the fastest teams in the country pace-wise. I just don't know if Syracuse is showing up, because they can't go bowling. They got smacked around by Louisville last week, and now that ended their bowl bid hopes. I know they're playing Senior Day, last home game, but if Syracuse doesn't show up, Wake can kill them. If Syracuse does show up, I think the stronger play is the over, because the game can fly over the total. They may not play DeVito either at quarterback. They may go with Carson Welch instead, who took over last week against Louisville. It may not be a bad thing at this point for Syracuse, because DeVito's not been great this season at all. But I'm debating Wake or over there. I'm definitely considering both of them.
Yeah, DeVito's a stiff. Let's call him what he is. And it's the kind of scenario where, so you and I do this all the time. Where we're debating side total. What's the case? Well, then we spend hours thinking about it, and then it didn't matter. They both cashed. You spend all the time. Which one's the better bet? I wouldn't argue out of an over. I wouldn't argue out of the Wake side. And they may well both cash. So I don't know which one's the better bet. My gut was Wake. I don't trust Syracuse offensively.
Yeah, someone asked Texas Tech, Texas. We'll get Teddy's thoughts on that. Texas laying 10-63 the total. I almost never bet against Tom Herman, but he's now a favorite, and I don't like the demeanor on this Texas team. I think this is now officially, this season has reached disappointment level for the Texas Longhorns. Question is, can you trust Texas Tech? I'm gonna. Just situationally, I'm gonna. It's a rivalry game. I know Jet Duffy's been erratic at quarterback. I know this Red Raiders defense has really had its problems at times, and that could be an issue still against Ellinger. But boy, it looks like a lethargic, mentally beaten down Texas team a little bit, especially when that game against Baylor came to its conclusion last week. I'm on the Red Raiders there, plus 10. I had to grab the 10. I just don't know what we get out of Texas. I know it's a rivalry game. They should, in theory, be pumped up. I'm just not sure they are. You got any thoughts on Texas Tech, Texas, Teddy?
I'm not going to play it. If I was going to play it, I might look to the favorite. I really might. I mean, it has been. It was a disappointing season for Texas before Baylor last week. Okay, and that's why originally when we talked last week, I'm like, I bet Texas on Sunday night or Monday morning, and then I got off it later in the week. I'm like, no, I don't like anything I'm seeing or reading or hearing about the Longhorns. And they played a no-show game, and they played a no-show game against an elite defensive team. Texas Tech's not an elite defensive team. Okay, and this is, in theory, the get-right bounce-back spot for a Texas team. I mean, they're better than Texas Tech. They're better than Texas Tech on both sides of the football. And if they show up, and again, last week was a no-show game against a good defense. This is the fat and happy game. This is all right, let's make it right at home on Senior Day against a weak defensive foe. I could see Texas scoring a whole bunch of points in this game. Lean over.
All right, lean over for Teddy with Texas Tech, Texas. Someone, Vincent Hawkins, I believe in the chat, asked about the Iron Bowl. How could we not ask about that? It is obviously a huge game. Everybody's into it. Auburn, Alabama. Alabama in this game currently right now laying 3.5 in Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn. 50 the total. It's obviously a big game, but hey, if you don't have an edge, it's a big game. It can be a big game all it wants to be. If there's not an edge, you don't bet the game. As simple as that. Do you think you have an edge here at all, Teddy, with Alabama, Auburn in the Iron Bowl?
So I want to ask you a peripheral question, Ian, and then we'll talk about this game, but I think they're related. How many teams did the SEC get into the Final Four this year?
2?
If Alabama wins, they could get 3.
Wow.
And that's worth a whole lot of money. I mean, a whole lot of money for the conference. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they could. There's a scenario in which LSU, Georgia, and Alabama get in. All it takes is a couple losses. You know, Oklahoma loses Bedlam. Okay, bye.
Ohio
and
State to a red hot
Ohio
Michigan
State
team. Yep.
or Clemson loses once in a conference championship game, and all of a sudden you've got Alabama scratching and clawing at the door, even though they didn't play in the SEC title game, and maybe make an deserving argument. I'm not betting against the Crimson Tide in this point spread range. I think they're better than Auburn, and I know Alabama's defense has been dicey all year, but so's Bo Nix. You know, we're not seeing Auburn light up the better teams. So the only way I would play there is road chalk Alabama. I don't want the dog in that one.
All right, like in the road chalk Alabama, if he's playing, he's laying. That's one of Teddy's famous trademark phrases there. And that's the way he'd be looking in that game with Alabama and Auburn. All right, last chance for questions in the chat on certain games. I got to mention the Egg Bowl because I'm in agreement with you on the Ole Miss side. I mean, people will look. This is a classic situation where some people will look at, here's 5-win Mississippi State. Need a win to get bowl eligibility. Let's bet that team. Doesn't work that way, at least not in my opinion. If you're a 5-win team at this stage of the year, you're a 5-win team for a reason because you're not all that great to begin with. And again, I got to stress this in situations like this, what you got with Mississippi State here this weekend. Must win doesn't equal will win. Just because you need to win the game doesn't mean you will. I don't think Mississippi State's a team I trust as a favorite. Their quarterback play's been shoddy all year. Their defense can be had on the ground. And don't forget, with the way Ole Miss is rolling out John Reese Plumlee and Matt Corral, they're 2 quarterbacks, and Plumlee's more of a running type of quarterback. That could be a problem here for this Mississippi State defense in this game. And Ole Miss can't get to a bowl, but guess what? This is like a bowl game for Ole Miss, this rivalry game, this Egg Bowl, and the chance to make sure Mississippi State doesn't play in a bowl game. They'd love nothing more than that. And I like that they covered the number against LSU. I like that they hung tough against Auburn. They covered the number against Alabama. The 3 big SEC West teams, they were 3-0 against the spread, Ole Miss, in those games. Whereas Mississippi State faced those same 3 teams. They got absolutely annihilated and eviscerated in those games. I'm in agreement with you there, Teddy. Ole Miss. And I think they would love nothing more, even though they can't go bowling, they'd love nothing more than to keep Mississippi State from getting that 6th win and keeping them from getting to a bowl game.
Yeah, that's why I played them. I mean, the eye test means something to me a lot at this stage of the season. These are teams I've seen play a number of times, and Ole Miss is better than Mississippi State. So you can throw out whatever stats and whatever must-wins you want. My eyes tell me the Rebels are the better squad. If I lose with the better squad catching points, so be it. But I'll take my chances with the Rebels on Turkey night.
All right, good stuff there, Ole Miss, and I agree with that one. All right, let's see. Let me throw one more game at you, and then we'll wrap up the show. Yeah, Georgia Tech. I mean, I'm
Michigan,
not really
Ohio
trying to
State.
make a case. Yeah,
Isn't
go
that
ahead.
the game they want? I mean, they don't want. Throw any game you want. I'm sorry, but I'm assuming that Go. Sorry, I don't mean to. I know we got like a minute left, so I'll shut up.
2
Throw your
rivalry games I'll throw at you. Georgia Tech, North Carolina, NC State. You got any interest in either of those 2? Then we'll wrap up.
I'm not anywhere near playing either one of those games. I'm not going to lay that price with Georgia's offense. I don't trust it. Georgia's not scoring points, but there's a pretty big class difference there, and Georgia won't take it easy on Georgia Tech. Pass for me. NC State's unbackable. And certainly not like I'm excited about laying up that price with North Carolina on the highway. They've blown games like this all year and don't win by margin. So easy pass there for me. I've lost your volume, Ian.
There we go. Before we wrap it up, I'm going to say that we didn't talk the Bedlam matchup, but I like the Cowboys there. Look at Oklahoma the last 4 games. 0-4 against the spread, including the loss to Kansas State, but the wins against Iowa State, Baylor, TCU, none of them by more than 4 points. What's going to make me think Oklahoma can win by 2 touchdowns here? They're not showing any evidence of that lately. And Oklahoma State's fine with Drew Brown. I know Spencer Sanders is out, but Drew Brown's capable enough. He's going to be at home here. Chuba Hubbard, my fellow Canadian, Edmonton, Alberta. Chuba Hubbard, what a running back he's been for Oklahoma State. Outstanding season for him running the football. Oklahoma's defense has reverted back into that same sad sack defense of last year. Give me Oklahoma State here. Oklahoma's not a team I trust laying 13 in a rivalry game. And we remember seeing when Mason Rudolph was playing for Oklahoma State, they won outright as like 3 touchdown underdogs one year against Oklahoma. So I like Mike Gundy's squad catching points. Do you have anything, Teddy, on that one? And then we'll wrap up for good.
Dog or pass? I'm with you 100% on that. I mean, it's a surprising line for me. I'll just put it that way. Cowboys, the number looks a good notch too high, just like all the numbers with Oklahoma's looked notch too high over the last month. It almost smells bad. It looks so high. Yeah, Okie State or pass.
Yeah, well, if I'm walking into a trap here with Oklahoma State, I guess I'm the mouse going to the cheese, and maybe that's the way it's going to go. But no, I don't believe in traps. I like the Oklahoma State side. All right, that'll wrap up the show. We're out of time. We're getting the hook. Teddy, this is it for you for this week. You're off the rest of the week. I want to wish you, Teddy, and your family, Kara, Isaac, the entire Savransky clan, happy Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday week. Safe travels if you're doing any traveling. Have a great week with the family, and wish you all the best with your wagers, my friend. Have a great week.
Hey, thank you so much, Ian. I really appreciate that. All the best to all of you out there in viewerland. Really appreciate you hanging out with us every day here at SBR. And if you're traveling for the holidays, travel safe. And I'll be back again on Monday. Enjoy, guys. Thanks.
All right, good stuff. Teddy Covers will be back next Monday morning on the Betting with the Bag show. That will be his next appearance on this program. That's going to wrap up this show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. If there's a question or two I missed in the chat, I apologize. We'll try to get those covered next time on the show, but I will be back, I should say, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time to host this show. The late show with another host will go on as normal, so make sure you tune into that, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Maxwell Smart to break down college basketball. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Great show as always. Thanks to everyone. Good luck with all your wagers tonight. And as always, leche, los bookmakers. There we go. We'll get it right. There we go.